Welcome to my channel. So today's episode has to do with training how to think while working. And sometimes that sounds more complicated than it really is. It's actually very simple. You just work out your problems as you go. But to train somebody to do that is difficult. So we give them some identifiers. And right here, we're looking at kind of a cheat sheet chart. And they don't typically have these in construction. So these are conversion tables and stuff like that. This is stuff for grade school, but it still applies. And what I'm going to be discussing today is a tool. And this is a 5-in-1 or what's called a 15-in-1, and it's a Warner. Now, this tool has the ability to do multiple functions, but it doesn't necessarily do any one of them perfectly. For instance, this bolt holder is only for one size of bolt. This nail puller is only for a certain type of nail. This curve here is to clean a roller for paint. These are sharpened edges, so that way you can scrape wood or metals with scrape paint off of wood or metals. There's a bottle opener. I don't know why we need the bottle opener. On the other end, there's a screwdriver catch, 1/4-inch screwdriver catch for Phillips as well as flathead. And probably not the appropriate tool for all these things, but if you had a tool, you could use this. It even has an eyelet hole, so that way you can string this up and act like a temporary plumb bob or something. And it has a little the ability to tap on stuff with this semi-solid hammer face. Other than that, I'm really restricted on using tools like this because they're typically not the go-to tool for me. I go to the tool that is appropriate for the job, not the tool that's appropriate for multiple jobs. But here's a way to think, okay? And sometimes you have to train these things into people's minds so they understand them. This blade's width is 3 inches. Is that ever going to change? No. So you know that this blade's width is 3 inches. So if you're working on an equation, you could say 3, 6, 9 inches. You could do stuff like that, or you could mark it off 3, and then you'd mark off the corner, and then you'd 3 more, and that's 6, and mark off that corner. So you can use tools as cheats a little bit. This tool's length is roughly 8.5 inches long. The tool's face is 3 inches, so it's 8.5 by 3 inches. That's a pretty good indicator of something that can be referenced for quick reference points, not for perfect reference points. For perfect reference points, you're going to go back to your tape measure. But if you need to roughly identify how wide something is that's, on your work table, you have to know how to reference things off the tools that you have, because they don't typically change. You're going to see that regular everyday objects, their sizes don't change much. This soda can is roughly 2.5 inches. Its length is roughly 5 inches. So that's not going to change. Okay. The soda can is a rough 5-inch measurement. You're not going to use this for precision, accurate measurements, but it gives you an indicator of size. It's not going to change much. All soda cans are going to be roughly the same, so you could kind of translate that information to the next project. This little bottle is roughly 3 and it's roughly 3 3/4 wide. So that's 3 3/4 wide. And what is it tall? Looks like it's about 2 3/4 tall. So we know this is 2 3/4 tall by almost 4 inches. So again, it gives us a rough estimate of size. So sometimes you have to look at things and you have to clearly identify that they have rough measurements that you can memorize. And once you have the rough measurements memorized, you can kind of gauge if something's going to work relevant to size. And that way you don't have to go finding your tape measure if it's missing like mine is currently. So fixed tools or tools that have fixed dimensions can be good rough gauges. This is not for accuracy. This is for roughness. This is for training purposes only. Do not go building a house because you've got a thing that's gauged out at 3 inches off of a piece of paper for notation for a high school. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting rough in measurements for building projects like blacksmithing projects or welding projects. Things that don't have critical requirements. You go to critical requirements, you're going to start using tape measures, marking sticks, lasers, whatever else precision device that you have to get your metric or your standard equivalence figured out. Just a way to think. Starting the training process starts with explaining the process. Have a great day.